care for dogs, or he would have named them, and it was in desperation, at last, for his knowledge of charities was limited, that he decided on the blind. That could not be inappropriate, and it would make the jury assess the damages high. A good many suits were dropping out of the list, which happened to be exceptionally thin that summer, so that his case would be reached before August. As the day drew nearer, Winifred was his only comfort. She showed the fellow feeling of one who had been through the mill, and was the femme sole in whom he confided, well knowing that she would not let Dartie into her confidence. That ruffian would be only too rejoiced. At the end of July, on the afternoon before the case, he went in to see her. They had not yet been able to leave town, because Dartie had already spent their summer holiday, and Winifred dare not go to her father for more money while he was waiting not to be told anything about this affair of Soames. Soames found her with a letter in her hand. "That from Val?" he asked gloomily. "What does he say?" "He says he's married," said Winifred. "Whom to, for goodness' sake?" Winifred looked up at him. "To Holly Forsyte, Jolyon's daughter." "What?" "He got leave and did it. I didn't even know he knew her. Awkward, isn't it?" Soames uttered a short laugh at that characteristic minimisation. "Awkward? Well, I don't suppose they'll hear about this till they come back. They'd better stay out there. That fellow will give her money." "But I want Val back," said Winifred almost piteously. "I miss him. He helps me to get on." "I know," murmured Soames. "How's Dartie behaving now?" "It might be worse, but it's always money. Would you like me to come down to the court to-morrow, Soames?" Soames stretched out his hand for hers. The gesture so betrayed the loneliness in him that she pressed it between her two. "Never mind, old boy. You'll feel ever so much better when it's all over." "I don't know what I've done," said Soames huskily. "I never have. It's all upside down. I was fond of her. I've always been." Winifred saw a drop of blood ooze out of his lip, and the sight stirred her profoundly. "Of course," she said, "it's been too bad of her all along. But what shall I do about this marriage of Val's, Soames? I don't know how to write to him, with this coming on. You've seen that child. Is she pretty?" "Yes, she's pretty," said Soames. "Dark. Ladylike enough." "That doesn't sound so bad," thought Winifred. Jolyon had style. "It is a coil," she said. "What will Father say?" "Mustn't be told," said Soames. "The war'll soon be over now. You'd better let Val take to farming out there." It was tantamount to saying that his nephew was lost. "I haven't told Monty," Winifred murmured desolately. The case was reached before noon next day, and was over in little more than half an hour. Soames, pale, spruce, sad-eyed in the witness box, had suffered so much beforehand that he took it all like one dead. The moment the decree nisi was pronounced, he left the courts of justice. 4 hours until he became public property. "Solicitor's divorce suit!" A surly, dogged anger replaced that dead feeling within him. "Damn them all," he thought. "I won't run away. I'll act as if nothing had happened." And in the sweltering heat of Fleet Street and Ludgate Hill, he walked all the way to his City Club, lunched, and went back to his office. He worked there stolidly throughout the afternoon. On his way out he saw that his clerks knew, and answered their involuntary glances with a look so sardonic that they were immediately withdrawn. In front of St. Paul's he stopped to buy the most gentlemanly of the evening papers. Yes, there he was. Well-known solicitor's divorce. Cousin co-respondent. Damages given to the blind. So they had got that in. At every other face he thought, "I wonder if you know?" And suddenly he felt queer, as if something were racing round in his head. What was this? He was letting it get hold of him. He mustn't. He would be ill. He mustn't think. He would get down to the river and row about and fish. "I'm not going to be laid up," he thought. It flashed across him that he had something of importance to do before he went out of town. Madame Lamotte. He must explain the law. Another 6 months before he was really free. Only he did not want to see Annette. And he passed his hand over the top of his head. It was very hot. He branched off through Covent Garden. On this sultry day of late July the garbage-tainted air of the old market offended him, and Soho seemed more than ever the disenchanted home of rapscallionism. Alone, the Restaurant Bretagne, neat, daintily painted, with its blue tubs and the dwarf trees therein, retained an aloof and Frenchified self-respect. It was the slack hour, and pale trim waitresses were preparing the little tables for dinner. Soames went through into the private part. To his discomfiture, Annette answered his knock. She too looked pale and dragged down by the heat. "You are quite a stranger," she said languidly. Soames smiled. "I haven't wished to be. I've been busy." "Where's your mother, Annette? I've got some news for her." "Mother is not in." It seemed to Soames that she looked at him in a queer way. What did she know? How much had her mother told her? The worry of trying to make that out gave him an alarming feeling in the head. He gripped the edge of the table, and dizzily saw Annette come forward, her eyes clear with surprise. He shut his own and said: "It's all right. I have had a touch of the sun, I think." The sun! What he had was a touch of darkness. Annette's voice, French and composed, said: "Sit down. It will pass then." Her hand pressed his shoulder, and Soames sank into a chair. When the dark feeling dispersed, and he opened his eyes, she was looking down at him. What an inscrutable and odd expression for a girl of 20. "Do you feel better?" "It's nothing," said Soames. Instinct told him that to be feeble before her was not helping him. Age was enough handicap without that. Will power was his fortune with Annette. He had lost ground these latter months from indecision. He could not afford to lose any more. He got up and said: "I'll write to your mother. I'm going down to my river house for a long holiday. I want you both to come there presently and stay. It's just at its best. You will, won't you?" "It will be very nice." A pretty little roll of that R, but no enthusiasm. And rather sadly he added: "You're feeling the heat too, aren't you, Annette? It'll do you good to be on the river. Good night." Annette swayed forward. There was a sort of compunction in the movement. "Are you fit to go? Shall I give you some coffee?" "No," said Soames firmly. "Give me your hand." She held out her hand, and Soames raised it to his lips. When he looked up, her face wore again that strange expression. "I can't tell," he thought, as he went out, "but I mustn't think. I mustn't worry." But worry he did, walking toward Pall Mall. English, not of her religion, middle-aged, scarred as it were by domestic tragedy, what had he to give her? Only wealth, social position, leisure, admiration. It was much, but was it enough for a beautiful girl of 20? He felt so ignorant about Annette. He had, too, a curious fear of the French nature of her mother and herself. They knew so well what they wanted. They were almost Forsytes. They would never grasp a shadow and miss a substance. The tremendous effort it was to write a simple note to Madame Lamotte when he reached his club warned him still further that he was at the end of his tether. "My dear Madam," he said, "you will see by the enclosed newspaper cutting that I obtained my decree of divorce to-day. By the English law I shall not, however, be free to marry again till the decree is confirmed 6 months hence. In the meanwhile I have the honour to ask to be considered a formal suitor for the hand of your daughter. I shall write again in a few days, and beg you both to come and stay at my river house.